Thank you. Thank you so much. I am so thrilled to be here at Detroit Startup Week and to facilitate this conversation with this amazing group here today. We're really going to talk about and dig into this subject of removing barriers and increasing opportunity for Detroit small businesses. Again, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions at the end, so please drop them in the Q&A. Once again, my name is Leona Medley, and if you're wondering what DICE means, I am the Director of Diversity and Inclusion, as well as Community Engagement for Bedrock Detroit. And again, I have here Matt Cullen, CEO of Bedrock, Shawn Wilson, CEO of Boys and Girls Club, President and CEO of Boys and Girls Club, Roslyn Karamoko from the fabulous Detroit is the New Black. If you don't know Detroit is the New Black, I don't know if you know Detroit. And then we have Phil Cooley here as well from Pony Ride and Slows and all the other amazing things. So we're just going to really kind of talk through this topic of barriers. Right now in the world, barriers kind of seems to be synonymous with our everyday life and what we're going through. And so we really want to talk about some partnerships, how as business owners, entrepreneurs, and even philanthropy, it's really about the pivot right now. So how do we pivot? How do we adjust and kind of make it through and kind of push through our businesses? So we're going to really jump right into some of these questions and some of this dialogue about a partnership that has just been announced this morning. If you are not aware, we're going to talk about that. It's an amazing venture. So the Boys and Girls Club, Pony Ride, Detroit is the New Black, and Bedrock are partnering to bring an industry club to Woodward Avenue. So if you know the Detroit is the New Black space, this phenomenal space that's been on Woodward, that's been a staple. I have on my Detroit is the New Black gear, my sweater, love it. And so we're going to talk about this industry club, this partnership. The club will expand on the Detroit is a New Black and Pony Rides accelerator concept, which launched in 2016. So Detroit is the New Black will share this space with 5 other rotating retail concepts with a focus on minority entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. And that's even more important right now. We'll talk a little bit about the impact of COVID on minority businesses and why this is so necessary, and especially in Detroit. This club will additionally provide 125 to 150 Detroit youth age 14 to 24 with an immersive experience in retail and fashion merchandising each year. So again, we'll get Shawn to talk about that aspect of it and the youth. I am a born and raised and still live in Detroit person, and it brings joy to my heart to be a part of this project, to have seen this kind of move over the last few weeks and come to fruition. So we'll talk about that. And then Bedrock will provide the space. So again, we have Matt Cullen here, and there is going to be this component of free rent for the Boys and Girls Club to provide, and we will provide additional funding for the club. And it's going to align with our mission of making an impact and advance economic opportunities for Detroiters. So I just wanted to lay the groundwork for this conversation and really this momentous event in the city. Woodward Avenue having Boys and Girls Club and Pony Ride is amazing, and we are living in an extraordinary time and to be a part of this. So without further ado, everyone, we'll just jump into this discussion. We'll throw it out there for everyone. Shawn, I really want to start with you and Phil and Roslyn to really talk about, and anyone can jump in on this question, what is the industry club? So if anyone can jump in and share what that is.
Yeah, so I'll kind of jump in to set the foundation. So about a year and a half ago, when I took over as president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Southeastern Michigan, we really set out to reimagine the organization. Most people know Boys and Girls Clubs as kind of a gym swim, safe place for kids to go, which is amazing. I think that's part of why we've been around for, well, our organization has been around for 94 years, but the brand's been around for 160. But we wanted to reimagine the organization for greater community impact. So we engaged with about 300 youth, parents, community stakeholders, staff. And what came out of it was this need to really address the core root of the issue facing our youth, which is poverty. So when you look at, youth dropping out of school or high incarceration rates or teen pregnancy, the core root of that can be traced back to poverty. So we really shifted our whole model to say, how do we create an economic mobility ladder for youth in order to be successful, and build an ecosystem with partners like a Bedrock and a Detroit is the New Black. And one of the ways that we're looking to do that is to make sure that each of our youth, when they leave Boys and Girls Club, when they age out, they're college, career, and startup ready, right? And so when you think about the barriers to them being college, career, and startup ready, especially that startup piece, it's a couple things, especially when it comes to industry. So it's lack of network, right? Who do they know who's an entrepreneur? Who do they know who can provide funding? Who do they know who can be a mentor to them? And so that's where the industry club was really born out of. We said, we have to create a different type of club than what we currently have, one that immerses youth in the industry and allows them to gain those networks, and be able to connect with adults who can provide that social and emotional support needed when you're an entrepreneur, right? Or when you're entering the industry. So that's really where the concept came from. And then as we merged and partnered with Pony Ride, getting to know Roslyn, getting to know Matt over the last couple years, it just became clear that all of us shared the exact same goal of really providing youth and entrepreneurs with that opportunity, with all of those resources. All of us shared the goal of removing the barriers. And I think so often when people are looking and organizations are looking to do this kind of work, they focus on the million reasons that it can't work, versus I can honestly say this group focused on all the reasons it could work. And that's why we're sitting here today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Roslyn, if you can kind of jump in there, I think it's a perfect time to get your take on it too.
Sure. For me, I went through sort of this entrepreneurial ecosystem in Detroit, and I certainly didn't get to Woodward Avenue alone, and so for me, it's like, I have this opportunity, I'm in this space, how can I open that up to other entrepreneurs in this retail space coming after me? I have a strong retail background. I was a buyer in my former career, and so coming to Detroit and being able to build this brand and going through programs like Build Institute and then Pony Ride, I was afforded such a expansive network, and that network and that access really allowed me to grow and to scale my business. And so, to Shawn's point, being able to provide this access to those individuals that may or may not live downtown or aren't in sort of this ecosystem, it really just provides an in for them to be able to be supported with the resources that I was supported with. So I'm really grateful. And within the space, we've always done sort of community programming and arts and culture events. We've done some mentorship and some talks at CCS and Wayne State and sort of throughout the city. So to be able to really bring it all together and culminate into this industry club is really just a perfect manifestation of what I was attempting to accomplish independently. So it's just really a blessing to have these partners that can bring that foundation and that strong infrastructure to be able to grow this idea. So it's a great partnership. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Phil, can you maybe kind of expound on that? I think everybody has just such a different perspective and a different insertion point into it, that hearing all of it, it really rounds out this idea of this industry club and how we got here.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's always been, when I moved to Detroit 18 years ago, I was really fortunate to be living in, Paris and London and Milan, Tokyo and New York City, and working and living in these great places. I started seeing a different narrative about Detroit than I was used to growing up here in a rural area north of here, or even the narrative that Chicago had about Detroit, where I lived and went to school. And that narrative was about like Terry Guyton and Derek May and all the incredible, talented people that are here. And when I moved here, that's exactly what I found, is more and more and more of that, incredible, innovative, talented people that are forced in this, wonderful way to work together, right? Because Detroit, we have less resources, so therefore we have to do more with them. And, I see that over and over again, and want to make sure that, as much as possible, we can eliminate these barriers to help, really grow. You don't create a Dan Gilbert overnight. You don't create a Roslyn, overnight. These people make mistakes. We forget so quickly about, Thomas Edison, getting kicked off the train, or the happy accidents of Henry Ford. These things take time. They're messy, and it takes a network of teams to build this stuff together. When we allow for that to happen, I think we'll see the talent in Detroit really, really flourish and start to create these, the innovative talent that we're so used to in this region, to change the world.
Right. And then that becomes a narrative that we uplift, right? And so others see what we see. So then, Matt, so now you have Boys and Girls Club, Detroit is the New Black, Pony Ride, all in this conversation. How do we get here? Bedrock gets here. So how do we get in this conversation with this amazing idea and bringing this to Woodward?
We got in it because of those three people, or those three organizations. I mean, we've been about small business. When Dan, committed to come down to Detroit, it was kind of like, who's going with me? What are we going to do to build up the downtown? I mean, what can we do to create a retail network along Woodward and then the downtown core? And it's been a lot of work. I mean, when we started, there really wasn't much happening down here. And through the work of a lot of folks, and certainly Bedrock's been a part of that, a lot of investment and so on, and it is developed, significantly. We have 127 retailers downtown now. A lot of them are doing very well, and we're excited about that. But we always knew that we wanted a real mixture, an authentic Detroit. It's terrific to have Nike and H&M and folks like that, but we need the Detroit's the New Black, and we need the other stores like that as well, where we have a Detroit experience that you can't have anywhere else. And so that's been in the forefront of our thinking from the beginning, but it's not easy, and certainly the COVID crisis has really exacerbated the challenges. I think that's what really became clear to us, that we needed to do more. I mean, when you look at the disproportionate impact of COVID on people of color, when you look at the disproportionate access to capital, even through the CARES program and things like that, the New York Times had an article recently where only a small percent of minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, had access to those programs. And when you see that, you realize that we need to get involved and to do even more to try and be intentional about our focus on minority small businesses, women, and so on. And yet, we don't have all the answers. It's not like, hey, we got the secret book behind us that we can pull out and share with people. And so when we, Shawn reached out to me first, and when you had the opportunity to partner with people you have a lot of respect for that bring all these different skills to it, and we as Bedrock can provide some infrastructure, we can provide some support, and I think you mentioned this at the beginning, but we're excited about it to be able to connect our people into it, because our team members are so excited to be a part of what's taking place in Detroit, and are so excited to be a part of creating opportunities for people from Detroit. And so that's just another way that we can, leverage our involvement with it. So it came together very quickly. Shawn and I are just laughing as we got started. I mean, but between Shawn and Roslyn and I and Phil, I mean, it's been a conversation maybe over the last couple months, but really accelerated over the last few weeks, and here we are today announcing it. So we're really excited to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And that just goes to show the power. Again, we've talked about it. I think everybody has said it through the conversation, that network is important, and leveraging those networks, because if you don't have the individuals in your networks that you can share these ideas with, and they begin to support you and say, okay, I don't know what it is, but let's run with it. And that's how this, and so then you have this groundswell of people getting behind it. So I think that's amazing. So let's talk about, so we talked about what the industry club is and how we got here. So now we have this Detroit is a New Black space on Woodward. Shawn and Roslyn, let's talk about what it's going to look like. What is that experience going to be So we have a youth student engagement portion, and then we have the entrepreneur incubator kind of accelerator piece. Like, what is that space going to look like? How are we going to experience that?
Sure. Well, I'll start with the sort of retail accelerator piece of it. This is something that we had already been sort of running in conjunction with Pure Michigan Business Connect. So essentially, we were taking applications online through Pure Michigan's site for sort of participants to be in this accelerator program, which offers them essentially free space in the retail store. So we were bringing in 4 to 5 small businesses, either in apparel, lifestyle goods, whatever it might be, every quarter, essentially. And Pure Michigan was supporting them in that space, and they were getting visibility on Woodward Avenue. And so that's sort of the retail accelerator piece. We'll keep bringing those brands in. We've also launched a marketplace online with Pony Ride alumni. So many of the entrepreneurs that come through Pony Ride have incredible sort of product-based businesses. And so we've been able to develop this online sort of accelerator to allow those businesses the visibility in front of our existing customer base. So that's sort of the retail component of it. And we'll have youth coming in from the club to shadow our employees and kind of learn about merchandising and buying and sort of how the retail industry works. And so that's a really exciting piece for us. And then on Shawn's end, there's some more sort of things that will be happening from the club standpoint.
Yeah, from the industry club end, ultimately, what we're doing is we're teaching kids the entire business cycle of retail and retail industry. And so every semester, 3 times a year, we basically envision the youth creating their own product, right? So they go from the ideation to design to the operational piece of it to marketing, sales, and ultimately, getting that full experience of what it takes to actually design a piece, which then will go into the marketplace. So, that's part of the real world experience for them. Is it's not textbook learning. It's actual real world learning with real resources and real potential revenue tied to it. And this also goes back to, part of our reimagined strategy for Boys and Girls Clubs is creating multiple earned revenue streams. And that's going to be important for us, philanthropically. I've been on both sides. I've been a funder, and of course, I've been on the nonprofit side of it, the operational side of it. And the thing I've come to learn over the 20 years is you can't rely just on a philanthropic community. You have to create an earned revenue stream to really help sustain the work that you're doing. If you look forward to 2021, it could get rough. And we have to be in a position where, as funders, philanthropic funders are pulling back, we don't have to pull back on the services that we're providing to the youth, because in a lot of cases, our services are life-saving, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have to make sure that we keep our doors open, that we are that safe place. So we can't just rely on just philanthropic dollars. So all of this really plays into that role. And once again, from a youth experience standpoint, we want them to walk out of these industry clubs building real relationships, because that's where you're able to break down the barriers. When someone from Bedrock gets to know a 14-year-old who then becomes an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old, and then they have this idea, that's when people start to lean or really get behind those ideas, because everyone knows, at the end of the day, you're investing in that person just as much as you're investing in the business. And so this is an opportunity to really break down that barrier. And a lot of times, obviously, a lot of our kids haven't even been to downtown, from their neighborhoods. And so that's the power of being located, in the business district on Woodward, right next to Shanola Hotel, like prime real estate, if you will. And having the kids experience that is just a game changer. You don't always have to take them, overseas to change their lives.
Man, I mean, I'm just giving you all kind of snaps with that. I'll say this, like growing up here, first off, my first experience at a 14-year-old working was flipping burgers at McDonald's. So these young people being able to go and have this mentorship and this real life retail experience is transformational and can be transformational throughout generations, right? And so sometimes we do not want to add the magnitude of what these things do. And oftentimes it is very small interventions in a young person's life at 14. And I'll just jump on to what you said, bringing young people downtown in a predominantly Black city and exposing them and saying, this is yours and this is for you, and you have open access to this, does not have to happen by crossing borders. Like, we just need, and that is so powerful. And it removes not only physical barriers, but it removes mental and emotional barriers for our youth. So this is major, and I want to make sure that we're driving that point home to those who are listening. And so then I want to go over to Phil, because really what I hear with this, and Roslyn talked about it a little bit, and I don't know if you have anything to add, and if you don't, it's okay. But when we talk about the program and how people are being accepted right now, is any of that going to change? Is there going to be a different target or different communication on how we pull people in, especially with the audience and the group that are viewing this now? I want to make sure that they have, you know, a understanding and a clear access to apply for this program if they're interested.
I don't think anything changes. It's still the same mission. You know, Pony Ride has always been looking for, you know, social entrepreneurs and creatives that, and specifically looking for people of color and women-owned businesses, and so that doesn't change. What does change is the partnerships. You know, whether it is, you know, the incredible connectivity that the Boys and Girls Club have to, you know, to the neighborhood and to the community. So we hope we can be broader and reach more people. And then also just the opportunities that, you know, Bedrock is, you know, offering, obviously with downtown and that visibility that we've all talked about. It's just hopefully just more of, you know, but nothing has changed in terms of us. It's just, we're lucky to be a part of it.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. We talked a lot about kind of the idea of the industry club, the creation, how we got here. Matt, I want to jump over to you and think about when you think about Bedrock and why the partnership, but specifically related to retail, is important. Why would that be important for downtown, for us, for the economy in general?
Well, I think, you know, there's been a lot of focus on small business in general, and certainly the Quicken Loans Community Fund is involved in a lot of different things. And we are involved in an array of different activities, from teaching kids to code and teaching kids to do other things. But the retail and entrepreneurial side of it is really a key business. As I think I mentioned earlier, more than 50% of people work for a small business. Most of the growth is coming from small businesses. And retail is a big part of that. And so for us, it's the intersection of this type of community that we want to create with this energy downtown. And you talked about it, and Shawn talked about it, but we want everybody to come downtown. We want them to go to campus marches. We want to go to the riverfront. We want that kind of vitality in the downtown. And a key enabler for that is a retail district that has, you know, stores and shops for everybody, that brings people down, that brings them down from the suburbs, brings them down from throughout the city. It needs to be very vital, very energized, very active, very unique. I mean, it has to be Detroit, and something that Phil paid a lot of attention to. So when you kind of come to the intersection of that, then us being intentional about, you know, we've been working with a small business. We obviously had a program when COVID first hit to give free rent for our tenants, and now we're doing variable rent for the rest of the year. And so we're doing a lot of things like that because we've worked so hard collectively to create this environment. But I think we want to be even more intentional now about making certain that those minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, so on, that we have, that we really are careful to nurture, and equally importantly, we identify more. And we identify the next entrepreneur to work in one, that come up with the next idea, and so on. And so, and for us, it was the intersection of all of our interests, and catalyzed by probably a COVID crisis, together with the, you know, Murder, Mr. Floyd, different things going on, but it's like, hey, we need to do more. And you think you're doing a lot, but then you look back and you say maybe not. So we need to do more, and I think that's why we really are turning a keen focus to it right now.
Right. And definitely at that phase of reflection, as a society, as individuals, as corporations, looking back to say how we do more. Roslyn, I wanted to maybe kind of go to you with this next one as a entrepreneur, as a woman, as a person of color. Why is it important for ideas like this, partnerships like this, and maybe even if you can just talk about mentorship. So when we think about, women own businesses and women entrepreneurs in the city of Detroit specifically, and in this environment, like what does that mean to have mentorship and partnerships like this for your business?
It means everything, and I go back to just my first experience in retail. I'm from Seattle originally, and I started at the downtown Nordstrom sort of flagship store in Seattle. And I started sort of in the stock room, but I would see the buyers come down to the floor, and there was a Black woman buyer, at Nordstrom in Seattle, and I saw her, and I was, 17. It was my first job. And so to see that and to see, okay, maybe I can do this in my future, or if I work my way up, or there is a path for me. And so, coming to Detroit and being able to have that store, and being able to see, youth, young Black girls that look like me and come down to the store and say, wow, this is your store? Okay, this is possible for me. I just know that representation really matters. And also to be able to pass along, what I've learned throughout my career in New York and abroad, and just in fashion and in retail. Planting those seeds can make a world of difference to young people of color, young girls of color. And I think the Boys and Girls Club is just such a perfect fit for me to be able to do that at scale on some level. And so that's what I'm really excited about, to be able to expand that and touch lives that look like me. So
Yeah. Shawn, I mean, what is this mentorship going to, just the mental impact, the social impact, on these young people that are coming through this program? Just like Roslyn said, to see someone at 17 that looks like her doing this job that for many of us may not even thought, you can get paid to do this. I can get paid to buy clothes. Like that doesn't make sense. So what is that going to do for these students?
Yeah, no, it's powerful, and when I took over, it's really important anytime you walk into a new brand that you understand what what makes that brand really special. And I think with the Boys and Girls Club, there's two things. One, the safe place, the physical safe space, but then also the second is the social and emotional safe place. And it's so it's rare that I meet alumni and they don't say two things to me. They say, that was a safe place that I went to, right, when I was growing up. And then they'll name a person. They'll say, and Mr. Matt, he taught me everything. He did this, he was that person that I went to, when I had issues, when I had troubles. And I think that that's powerful. So part of the whole reimagined piece is to evolve that and say, this is the core. We can't get away from that. So how do we expand that? And part of what Roslyn just spoke to is, now we have mentors in industries, we have entrepreneurs who can also give that same social and emotional support to youth to fail in their business, right? Because your greatest learnings are going to come from failure before you're successful. And so who's there to coach you and say, okay, Shawn, you failed at that, but what did you learn from that? And in a perfect world, in an amazing world, what would happen is we would have kids who would fail 3 or 4 times at businesses before they left the Boys and Girls Club. So now when they're leaving and they failed in a safe environment, now when they're leaving and they're actually at 19, 20, 21, trying to start that first hardcore startup, the learnings that they have under their belts is ridiculous, because there's someone who cared enough to help them work through that failures. And as we all know, there is a disparate a difference between a person of color failing and a non-person of color failing, right? A person of color failing, when they go back for the funding, a lot of times it's like, ooh, that didn't work out for you, right? And so I don't know, do we want to take another risk? Versus, research has shown that, someone who's not a person of color, ultimately they get an opportunity over and over and over again. But that's really because of network, right? It's because they have those people who believe in them and say, Shawn may have failed this time, but damn, he's a good guy. So we're going to give him another shot. He's a hard worker. He's smart. He's all these things. So we're gonna chalk it up and we're gonna give him another shot and see what he learns. So all of that really plays a role in this.
Man. So Phil, I want to shift a little bit. And so we talk about, getting entrepreneurs into the program. Um, Can you talk about any barriers that you have seen or have had feedback from entrepreneurs entering the program, whether it may be on their end, and how are we looking to alleviate any barriers to getting, especially since we are targeting a specific demographic. We are targeting women and minority owned or minority entrepreneurs. I mean, that is, and so even if it's mental barriers, so in your experience with Pony Ride, like what are those barriers been? What have you seen them, and how we're going to alleviate them? How we're going to tear them down?
Well, so being a white male of privilege, when I started Slo's Barbecue, I was able to get my a loan, and I look back at that person that was, my business plan was a joke. When I look back at the credit card processing company asking me what our sales are going to be, I just luckily I'm good with math, so I started writing on an unfinished pillar like a bunch of numbers and like, oh yeah, our sales are going to be this much. And and that really spoke to a lot of our unpreparedness. Even though we obviously did a good job with Slo's Barbecue, I don't think that we were necessarily prepared. And so what we want to do is when we know all the statistics and the science behind these obstacles and these barriers that women and people of color face, we want to prepare them as much as possible. So that they can overcome these, give the lenders no choice but to support what they should be supporting. And so, it's partnering with people like Build Institute, it's partnering with people like Prosper Us, it's partnering with people like SCORE, a lot of organizations that are really, you don't want financial advice from me. So when you can go to places like SCORE and all these other places, I mentioned you're getting mentorship from CFOs and things of that nature, which are far more appropriate. And so we really want to surround them with that network as much as possible to lower the barriers to entry, particularly to capital. I mean,
right.
We know that is a major issue, but it goes far beyond that. Resources in general, and this is why Detroiters share so much, right? This is why you see so many incredible collaborations, because everyone brings a little something to the table and they get it done. But we want to also make sure that, somebody, a woman or a person of color can do what I did, when I started Slo's Barbecue. The passion, the talent was there. I was the janitor, I was the dishwasher, I was the bartender, I was the general manager, I was whatever it took to get that open. And there was a clear need for what we had. But, had I been a woman or a person of color, I wouldn't have been able to communicate that. And so let's help people communicate their vision clearly and make sure that they're able to do what I did and more.
Right. And so Matt, when you think about, here we have Pony Ride, we have this industry club, Detroit is the New Black Boys and Girls Club, this partnership. How is Bedrock and what is Bedrock doing to drive minority entrepreneurship in the downtown area? So, any conversations, anything that Bedrock is doing specifically to increase minority representation in downtown businesses?
I mean, really, this is one of the key initiatives for that. I mean, we have absolutely worked to recruit, and we brought in a lot of good folks, and folks have done well, but we're not really satisfied with the, sort of the number or the success in some instances and so on. And it's, as everyone has alluded to, and Phil certainly from being in a small business, Shawn, I mean, it's a tough racket anyway. I mean, these startup companies and the startup retailers, I mean, the failure rate is very significant. And then you're in a city that is rapidly developing, but doesn't necessarily have the foot traffic and things that we're trying to generate, which is starting to happen. but look, I mean, I don't think that we collectively have succeeded to the level that we would like to. And so when we looked out and had the opportunity to collaborate with three individuals and three, you know, sort of ideas like this, we are really enthusiastic about it because we want more. You know, we want it faster, and we want it more expansive, and so, and yet when you know, I came into this role, I've been in real estate for a long time, and I came into this role, and I'm thinking, okay, how do we do this? Like I said, it's not like, hey, here's a list of people you call, and you call them, and then all of a sudden these great businesses show up, and oh, by the way, they got a pipeline of great kids from the neighborhoods that are going to help develop these things, and here's a safe environment and all those kinds of things. Honestly, when you sort of look around, that type of thinking, learning laboratory to identify, you know, support, nurture, doesn't exist. And so, you know, we want to be a part of it, and we can't do it by ourselves. And so, you know, this relationship is key for us. And as I mentioned earlier, I want to kind of hit it again. You know, being part of Detroit now is a mission for our family of companies, broadly speaking, but it certainly is the case for Bedrock too. And I just, Leona, you know, you can speak to it, but the interest and enthusiasm from our team members to be a part of this. Hey, maybe I could come in and mentor a young person in accounting, or hey, let me help set up the IT online distribution network, or maybe I can help with the physical space layout or things like that. So I view this as a collaboration amongst like-minded people that are trying to get to an outcome, and that outcome doesn't exist in the way we want it to today. And so I guess going back to Phil's comment, you know, okay, if it doesn't exist, let's figure it out. And who are you going to figure it out with? You're going to figure it out with people in your network that you have confidence in and that are like-minded, and then let's go do it. So that was kind of the genesis of this, and it will evolve and morph because we don't know exactly how it's going to play, but we know that we have the right people in the room to go after this opportunity.
And
if I can add on to that, I think, you know, one of the keys to this has really been this servant leadership mindset that I think all four individuals on this panel really came into this opportunity with. I mean, it would be easy, you know, Bedrock and the family of companies spent who knows how much, right, on trying. So it would be easy for Matt to sit back and say, well, we've done so much in this space already, we're good. Phil is extremely accomplished, right? Roslyn's extremely accomplished. I'd like to think that I've done a couple of things, you know, well here and there. And I think there's a tendency, the biggest barrier to these kind of partnerships is a tendency to make it all about self and who gets the credit and whose name is listed first and all of those things. But I can tell you, these four individuals on this call, it was never about that. It was literally about the youth and about the entrepreneurs in the city and how do we lift them up. And I think that's why we're sitting here. So I just want to underscore that, because sometimes ego gets in the way of progress and collaboration. And so I think we have to all have that servant leadership mindset to say, Matt, what do you need to make this successful? Phil, what do you need to make this successful? And then I'm delivering it for you. And if each of us focus on what the other person needs to be successful, now you have a true partnership that I think is going to be successful.
Roslyn, any comments on that?
Sorry.
I said, any comments on that? They're just dropping jewels.
I think that's exactly it, you know. And so us being there, you know, already as a store was the idea was to be a pipeline, and so to bring small businesses and get them ready to go into their own spaces, whether that be with Bedrock or otherwise. But you know, we really want to be able to foster them and help them to get their brand, you know, at retail level. And so we really are just excited to be that piece of the pipeline to hopefully be able to launch them into their own individual establishments.
And that's so major to talk about as a business owner in your space and focusing on being a part of the pipeline, right? Not it's not just you in your own silo saying I am in this just to make this happen for me, but more of a conduit to help other people continue to pass through that pipeline and help to spur this ecosystem of entrepreneurs in downtown. So one of the things we haven't really, talked about, Matt, and I'm going to throw this back to you. So Bedrock is supporting, but we also you talked a little bit about the team member piece, and that's my passion in getting these team members involved and supporting because we have a motto that's for more than profit, right? And so you can do good and do well. And I think that kind of surmises what this is. This is doing good and doing well. This is, individuals coming together, looking to turn the idea of traditional retail, traditional philanthropy on its head and do something that has not been seen. You won't see this in any other downtown. And the other amazing thing that Bedrock has done and is doing is also a development grant and a contribution. And Matt, you were really adamant about this. And I just, Shawn, we were on these calls and talking, and it was always about doing more. And if you just can think about, maybe Matt, just share about the doing more, because we had the space piece and we could have left it to that, but the conversation never just stopped there. And then we had the team member piece and it didn't stop there. And then we went into this other piece. And so when you just talk about that, for more than profit, doing good and doing well, like, can you just kind of talk us through that?
Sure. I mean, it really is a philosophy that Dan had as he came into Detroit. I mean, it was like, hey, what can we do together to really, move the needle here? How can we affect the outcome? How can we, to your point, do good and do well? And if you look at the variety of things the family companies involved in, I think it's very clear that continues to be the philosophy. But in this instance, and Shawn talked about the philanthropy. I mean, it's funny because I had this conversation with my boys the other day. I mean, it's really important to be philanthropic and to support organizations that you care about. And as individuals and as a company, we've done that. But it's so much more rewarding, I think, to be partners in something. And so what I have encouraged my sons to do is, hey, if you're going to be supportive of something, it should be something that you personally are passionate about, and you should be involved in it. And you should, not just, again, philanthropy is very important, and I don't want to minimize it, but I think both for individuals and for a company, I'll just focus on Bedrock for a second. I mean, this is core. I mean, if we're about building Detroit, and if we've got $5.6 billion that we're investing in the city of Detroit. Well, I mean, how are we going to be successful? We're going to be successful if the city of Detroit's successful. I mean, and how is that going to happen? It's going to happen if the people of the city of Detroit are successful. And so, and you're much more effective when you're involved. I mean, it's just very difficult to sort of stand above the fray and say, hey, okay, well, here's some money, go do this. I mean, where you get involved and where you make a difference, and we make a difference within yourself, which is why I think that with your leadership, our team members are so excited about it, is they want to be out there and involved, and they want to put their arm around that young person and say, hey, let me help you do this, or and as always the case, that the mentor learns as much as the mentee through those experiences, and then they can, sort of share that wisdom as well. So, this one just resonated with us, and with me personally, as soon as it came in front of us. It was because Shawn and Roslyn were having a conversation, and Shawn reached out to me, and I'd gotten to know Shawn and very impressed with him, very impressed with his organization, and obviously Phil's leadership throughout the city. So all of a sudden it was like, boy, what a perfect opportunity. And we don't want to be passive investors. We want to be active investors. And this is how it played out for us.
That's amazing.
To
So
just
we
follow,
do
if
have,
I can,
yo, go ahead.
sorry,
Yes,
if I
please.
can just follow what Matt said, I think the reason, again, I'm so excited about this is because, you know, Bedrock and Shawn and Phil, they are so active and involved, and philanthropy, to Matt's point, is one thing, but, you know, it's not about a handout. We don't need handouts. We need actual learning, and we actually need tools to scale our businesses. And I think that is the piece that's so important here. You're getting the access, you're getting the learnings, to go off on your own. And I think one of part of the feedback from the entrepreneurial community in Detroit I've heard was, you know, you get these grants or they kind of help you along, but then your business gets to a place where you've almost been crippled by these small grants to get you over. So you really need to understand how to build a solid business, and you need these partners that can help you to do that. So it's more than just you know, a grant or a philanthropic strategy. It's more about how do we build strong businesses, and who can help us to do that. So
Oh, Roslyn, that was on point, because it's not just about a handout and having the business owner have to continue to go back to the table and ask for more handout. It's empowering that business owner to create their own wealth and create their own pathways to a successful business. I think that's so powerful, and an amazing point to make sure to amplify in that. And expounding on the role of philanthropy, and where philanthropy has to step back, and is oftentimes really about the sweat equity and really getting in and working with side by side with entrepreneurs. So we do have a question in the chat. I want to make sure we get to this, and so I'll throw this out there for anyone. So when you look back on this, thinking about, I would expand it, thinking about this partnership, thinking about, so Bedrock, Pony Ride, Detroit is the New Black, and Boys and Girls Club, and then the industry club itself. What will be the key indicators on whether this partnership was a success? And then what will we see? So if you were to think about 5, 10, it could, be just a 15-year, what does success look like for us in this and for the community?
Yeah, so I can kind of jump in on that. So there's a couple things, right? One, you're able to focus on the 21st century skills, right, and the mastery of those skills that the youth are gaining. So that's extremely measurable. You can see them actually implementing those skills real time and understand that they've mastered it, and that they can implement it in any, pretty much in any setting. So I think that that's part of it. And then long term, you want to start to see that pipeline come to life. So, we want to be at a ribbon cutting. So here's the moonshot. We're sitting at a ribbon cutting. Here's a young person that started in this program at 15 years old, 16 years old, and they're surrounded by a lot of those small businesses that that were incubated, right? That they were in the incubation space, and help them get to this place where they're cutting the ribbon on their own space on Woodward or anywhere in the city. Because I think, Woodward is, and Matt and I talked about this the other day, Woodward is a starting point. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this impact is felt all across the city, and maybe other parts of the region, Pontiac, Flint, et cetera, right? There's a real opportunity to take this and potentially replicate it long term. So, I think there's many indicators that we can focus on, from just the skill building piece to kids actually entering the industry and becoming gainfully employed, starting their own businesses. Those are all things that we'll be able to track from the very beginning.
Roslyn, got it? I'm sorry, Phil, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just like to add to it is, as Shawn started to expand outside of Detroit, matching Flint and Pontiac, and as we see from demonstrations worldwide, this is an issue that we've for far too long ignored. And I hope this time change is real. And so this is going to be very important for us to not just do this work, but share the work with others and learn from others, because this is a massive need. And I don't think saying something like we need to incubate 20 businesses is going to answer the question. It's the idea that we're progressing, we're learning, and maybe it's more than 20, maybe it's less than 20, but the idea that this is something that we're learning and growing and sharing, not just in Detroit, but everywhere.
Roslyn? Oh, I'm sorry, Matt.
No, I was just going to jump in on Phil's comment, because I hadn't really thought of it but Shawn made the same thing, but if we can understand this better, if we can be better at it, you know, and if we can teach the young folks and we can have some, you know, graduates come out of this and so on. But equally importantly is the learnings that come from it, and like, and how can we extrapolate those elsewhere. I mean, obviously we're focused on Detroit and in our case, Cleveland and so on, but the region's really important. And look, you know, the reason that, if there was a consultant that we could hire, any of us, that, you know, hey, bring them into town, they know how to do this, you know, and they'll come teach us. Well, that'd be a lot easier than, you know, four of us jumping into a room and trying to figure this thing out if somebody had the answer. But the answer isn't available that way. And so I really want to just amplify Phil's point that, and Shawn, is that, look, I mean, if we get good at this and understand it, and it's replicable, you know, it will be always unique to Detroit in a piece of it, but learnings are, you know, are able to be shared. And I think that would be a great outcome if we could get to that point.
For me, economic mobility is a huge focus point, you know, that Shawn and I have discussed for as an outcome. I think for me, if these kids, if we can place them in jobs, if I can hire them into Detroit is the New Black, you know, if they can grow their career, whether it be in design or in retail or even within the family of companies, for me, that's success. So it's about job placement, real career opportunity, and economic mobility for the youth.
That's awesome. And for me, it would be having one of these students be CEO of Bedrock. So that would be success.
Would be.
So we have we have another question I want to throw out there, and so I'll let each individual jump in. This one just popped in. What are some specific things that young people will be able to experience while working in the club? We talked about it a little bit in the beginning, and maybe we can drill in a little bit more into that question, Shawn.
Yeah, we kind of hit on it in the beginning, but everything from, I mean, the full business cycle. So let's just take a T-shirt. You know, designing the T-shirt. What's the story behind the T-shirt design? Why are you designing this? Who's your perfect customer profile? Who are you trying to reach? What are you trying to communicate? You know, all of those different things. So starting from the design element, you know, all the way to operationalizing it, so selling it in the store. You know, so they'll get a chance to you know, work the register. Right? They'll get a chance to experience fulfillment, you know, behind the scenes. They'll get an opportunity to understand digital marketing and marketing overall, right? How to get it out there. And then they'll get opportunity to assess the metrics. So how successful was this, you know, this product launch, and how much did you earn in revenue behind it? And I think that last piece is going to be really important, because so often that's where programs like this kind of stop short. So they go through the process to launch, and then that's kind of it. But you have to help them really pull the data to understand what was successful and what was not successful about it, not only for themselves, but guess what? The next semester, that's the starting point of the next group. The starting point of the next group is where the last group left off. So what we should see year over year is this refinement and you know, of product development, speed. You know, I would anticipate the first year is going to be tough, right? Going to be rough, right? You know, with the process from a youth standpoint, like really wrapping their arms around it. But then as you have more and more youth going through this process, now there's that peer-to-peer mentorship that happens in the clubs, right? So if I know, you know, Phil and I go to the club and I know he was in this program before and we're struggling with something, now I'm going to Phil. That peer-to-peer piece. So ultimately, you know, there's hard skills, there's soft skills that the youth are learning, and that's when I refer to 21st century skills. You know, those are some of the things: communication skills, being able to present their ideas, gather, you know, collect, analyze, and present data. You know, all of those different things are wrapped into this program. And by the way, you know, we're not starting from scratch on this. You know, we're looking at partners like junior achievement and different partners to bring in, the same way that on the incubator side, the accelerator side, you know, we're looking at Build and all those other organizations that Phil talked about. We can't do this alone, and we have to bring in a ton of partners who have more knowledge than we do in specific areas to make this successful.
That's amazing. So I think that answers that question. I mean, this is, and you said it, Roslyn. This is economic mobility for these young people. And so think at 14, instead of just getting a job, working in a retail establishment where you are the stock person, you are now getting a job where you are the entrepreneur, creating this business and looking at creating jobs and wealth for other people at 14. So we really have flipped this idea on its head, thrown out the playbook for what it looks like to teach and grow young people, and specifically here in the city of Detroit. I don't think that there is a better city for this to happen. I think that there is not a different time that this could happen and take root like it's going to right now. That our young people need this, and it's going to be amazing. So I'll end with this final thing. Maybe Shawn, and I don't know who can take this question. How do people stay connected with these opportunities and these resources? So what is the pathway for people to find out about young people getting involved and entrepreneurs? So where should they go?
Yep. So from a young person standpoint, so bgcsm.org, you can register your child for a youth membership. Youth memberships are only $50 a year for the whole year. Once again, access, right? You have to make sure that we stay affordable from an access standpoint. And that gives you access to our clubs. We currently have 8 clubs, 10 locations, and all that you would gain access to. We also have a virtual club that we launched due to COVID that will continue. So you get access to that as well. And then you get access to, world-class programs like the Industry Club. And so, I would encourage parents to sign themselves up for there. And then from a accelerator standpoint, Detroit is the New Black and Pony Ride. Make sure that you're staying plugged into those communities, sign up for newsletters, things of that nature, so that you can see when new opportunities are coming out. Or you can just call Matt Cullen. Just everyone direct all questions to Matt Cullen. That's what I think, anyhow.
Excellent. Excellent. That's perfect. I love it. Ended on that note. Well, listen, I want to thank the 4 of you for all of your amazing hard work that you have done to bring this idea and this concept to reality. As a resident of the city of Detroit, this is a momentous event for us, and I celebrate you, and I celebrate the work that you are doing for the business community, for the young people, and for the residents in general. This is going to be phenomenal. And I think that you are not looking at it just from a Detroit aspect, but you are trying to create experiences for these young people to expand that around the globe, not just Detroit. So we want to see young Detroiters that go through this program in Japan, in Tokyo, in Paris, wearing Detroit is the New Black. So thank you to Roslyn Karamoko from Detroit is New Black, Shawn Wilson from Boys and Girls Club, Phil Cooley from Pony Ride, and Matt Cullen. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. We look forward to everything that is coming through the pipeline with this experience. Please stay tuned, everybody. Thank you for joining the Detroit Startup Week. My name is Leona Medley, and have an amazing day. Thank you.